XSLT is another one of the complementary XML technologies that you can use to work with XML data. And it builds on using XPath. So if you haven't yet watched the chapter on XPath, you should probably go watch that before coming here. XSLT is the Extensible Style Sheet Language Transformation Specification. It's a little bit different than CSS. You might see that word style sheet and think, oh, okay, it's kind of like using CSS. But the important word you need to focus on is the transformations part. XSLT works differently than CSS because CSS essentially applies a set of styling rules to tag content in either HTML or XML files. XSLT is a little bit different. It applies templates to XML data, and those templates can be pretty powerful. There's all kinds of things that those templates can do. XSLT is also written in XML syntax itself. So when you look at an XSLT style sheet, it's all XML code, whereas CSS is written using its own proprietary format. It doesn't look like HTML or XML. It's a bunch of, brackets and various rule definitions. XSLT is pretty powerful. It can transform XML data into almost anything. And when I say almost anything, what I mean by that is you can transform XML data into other XML data or PDF or Word files or ASCII text. It can be almost anything. So we'll take a look at how we can transform XML data in a little bit. XSLT can also perform operations directly on the data. So things that might take time working with the DOM, like say generating numbered lists or sorting information, you can do that pretty easily in XSLT. Of course, XSLT is a pretty complex subject and could probably consume an entire course just on its own. I'm going to go into some of the more basics and we'll learn how to use it, but you can always learn more by going directly to the W3 website at tr/XSLT. So how do you create an XSL style sheet? They're defined using the XSL:/style sheet root tag. They also typically contain one or more XSL template tags, which contain the definition for the template. And we'll see how this works in a little bit. Templates are then matched to XML tags in the source XML data. So you have a source XML file, the template is applied against it. The template then figures out which one or more than one of the XML elements in the source data that it applies to, and then the template does its work. Usually, the contents of the template replace the source XML and transform it into whatever the output XML is. But templates can also contain other XSLT directives. You can do things like loop over content and sort content, insert new content in the output. We'll see examples of all of those. In addition to being matched to source XML data, templates can also be invoked by name, almost as if they were a function. So there's a couple of different ways you can use templates. Let's take a look at how XSLT works. You define an XML document. This is where your source data comes from. There's also a matching XSLT style sheet. Each of those is fed into an XSLT transformation engine. Now, this is usually the browser in the case of the web. But there's also server-side implementations that do this as well. So if you're doing any back-end server work, you can take XML and XSLT content and transform it on the back end before the resulting data is sent to the browser. The output of this is a result document, which contains the transformed XML into whatever you transformed it into. Other XML, PDF, Word, doesn't really matter. What we're going to do next is see the contents of XSLT style sheets, and then we'll take a look at taking XSLT for a spin.